started today as they came rolling along easily and smoothly in unison, and the green flag flickered and the race was on.
It's time for round number 17 of the second season of the Canadian E-Motorsports Network NASCAR Series, and it's the finale in our round of 16 in the playoffs. The Canes Camp 250, live from the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway in Bristol, Tennessee. Hello everyone and welcome to our coverage on Facebook Live. Jordy Carraher here alongside Mark Cox, and MC, it is hard to believe that we're already at our first eliminator.
You know, it's so exciting. Some drivers are going to go home tonight without their spots in the playoffs anymore. You know, it'll be a question of who it is at the end of the race, but I'm so excited.
And certainly Bristol can be occasionally known for being a bit of a demolition derby, but let me tell you, last week at Road America, John Peden absolutely demolished the field in the Zwemmer Management 180.
Oh, man. Just in qualifying, he really started his dominance, and it carried over to the race. What an absolutely dominant performance from Jonathan Peden.
Yeah, ultimately finishing, I believe it was over 31 seconds ahead of second place Mike Marini, with Corbin McCauley ultimately finishing third. Obviously a little bit tougher to do an interview in that particular situation, but we still talked with all three of them afterwards just to get their take on, you know, their experience at Road America, as well as making the adjustment to the full 100% race length as well.
Yeah,
I think I
race.
took the lead with about 13 or 14 laps to go. I came out of the pits behind Jose, and I knew Jose had a really good car, and he gets around here really well. But I was...
And we will actually bring it back to you in just a matter of moments here, but Mark, obviously, you know, a lot to talk about here. Bristol, certainly one of the more interesting tracks that we'll see, just its sheer, you know, lack of length.
Yeah, so Bristol is such a small track for these large stock cars to be racing on. It'll be very tight, kind of like what we saw earlier in the season at Dover. The race was very, very, very tightly packed. There were a lot of cars getting lapped. Just like you'll see here tonight, the cars that aren't fast enough, you'll see them go down laps really early, as it's around 12 to 14 seconds a lap time to get around. So we'll be hitting 4 or 5 laps every minute. So just watch out for that. And here are the post-race interviews from last week.
Yeah, we'll have those in just a quick second. We're just getting them loaded up into the program. But obviously, as we mentioned off the top, 4 drivers will be eliminated from title contention, and it's pretty tight, all things considered. And we'll get into that certainly on the other side of these interviews as soon as we've got them all ready to go. And as a matter of fact, let me just make sure we've got everything set up properly here. And all right, so that's the wonder of live streaming, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes these things can happen. Sometimes you will occasionally forget something, but now we can present some comments from John Peden, Mike Marini, and Corbin McCauley from last week. Here we go. Where on earth did you find the speed at, what is, a rather difficult track to tame?
I've put in so much practice at that track for different leagues throughout the year and a half here that I know that track like the back of my hand.
Given the circumstances that kind of surrounded tonight, how happy and or encouraged are you by tonight's second place finish?
Oh, I'm really happy with the second place finish. Consistency is going to get me through. I know eventually I'm going to have to get a win. But yeah, to do what I've been doing on the road courses this year, I'm really happy with it. I just got to turn that around now to the 1.5 miles, and then I'll be really happy.
Well, it's kind of one of those deals where once I got the wins during the regular season, I kind of just mainly started focusing towards the playoffs. So my results towards the end of the regular season weren't really showing of what my playoff performance would look like. But to come home P3 2 weeks in a row, that you can't really get more consistent than that. So 2 top 5s in a row to begin the round of 16 is really helpful because I knew from the start, I didn't really know what to expect at all. I don't think any of us did going into Road America, who would be on top, who would be fastest. But once I saw that 2-minute, 2-second qualifying lap set up by Gator, I knew for a fact that tonight wasn't going to be my win. But to come home P3, especially finishing dead last in the first stage due to a pit stop strategy that went wrong, to come home P3 after that, it's pretty rewarding.
And there you see just how everything kind of shakes out again with the win. John Peden advances to the round of 12, joining Darcy Ford there. Scott Bailey has officially locked in his playoff positioning here as well. He's through to the round of 12 on points. As we'll take a closer look at the playoff picture itself, there you see again Ford and Peden with the 2 playoff wins to this point. But again, the battle is really, I would say, 11 through 14 in terms of sheer movement. 15 and 16 being Kevin Daigle and Chad Hyder. It's basically must-win territory for them tonight.
Yeah, and Chad is one of the biggest names that is a must-win tonight. So surprising, but it was only because he missed the first race of the playoffs that he's this far behind. So it's make or break. Chad has had some very good success at tracks like Dover, other short tracks. He's really good at them. So tonight, I know he's right there and he's wanting to win.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, nearly had that victory at Darlington before Darcy Ford caught him in the last couple laps. So, again, Hyder, he certainly knows what's at stake here tonight, having gotten to the round of 8 last year. You know, he'd love to continue his trek forward. And for the rest of the field, we still have the best of the rest competition going. And we've got a tie at the top, Michael Dimitrov and Lee Campbell there on 45 points, but Chase Beatty very much in the picture there as well.
Yeah, and Chase has been a very strong contender, just has had a very tough luck with internet issues. But on a good day, Chase can be there with Michael and Lee Campbell. So I wouldn't be surprised if this battle tightens up even more throughout the playoffs.
And speaking of tight battles, I think things certainly spread out a little bit following last week's race at Road America. But John Peden certainly showing his dominance on the rookie side of things as well, as he's now got a 53-point gap over second place Matt Paytak.
Yeah, and you know what? It was just the dominance of last week that really solidified Jonathan Peden's place right now at the top of the Rookie of the Year standings. And I wouldn't be surprised if that points lead at the end of the season is a lot bigger than it is right now.
And, you know, certainly 8 races still to go, including tonight, to sort all that out. Not to mention it's the same deal on the team side of things as well, where Cobra Kai's stretched its lead to 80 points over second place Midwest Elite as they start to catch up on wins. They've won 2 of the last 3 races.
Yeah, and Cobra Kai has been very strong lately, so I would just expect to keep seeing them rack up the points, race in, race out. Tonight, if they can get all 3 of their drivers in there where they need to be, I wouldn't be surprised if Cobra Kai can really stretch it a lot further.
And we're just going to take a quick commercial break here, but on the other side, we'll give you a super quick preview of the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway. And, of course, it's going to be quick given the short nature of the lap. And then we'll bring you to the green flag of tonight's Canes Camp 250 as our coverage continues right here on the Canadian E-Motorsports Network.
Growth requires flexibility, the boldness to try something new, the wisdom to take care of what you already have, to get to know yourself, to step out and connect, to build something.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And as mentioned before the commercial break, we're going to take a super quick look at the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway in our weekly ride-along. MC, hit me, my good sir.
You know, it is a super short ride-along here this week. It's about 12 seconds, so I'm going to have to talk really fast. You don't want to oversteer your car into the barrier on the left-hand side. You don't want to understeer your car into the right-hand side barrier either on both exits of Turn 2 and Turn 4. Those are the worst places that you can get oversteer or understeer if your car is not set up properly. So my biggest point tonight is adjustments during the pit stops. They'll be big. Many of the drivers choosing to make their car tighter or looser as their stints go on. So just a very quick lap, 12 seconds. It's a half mile. So just expect to see 4 to 5 laps every minute.
And the other consideration, of course, the way Bristol's structured, you got a pit lane on both sides there as well. So obviously that can potentially affect things as well. What would be kind of the biggest thing you're looking for from that side of things?
Just getting confused and going into the wrong pit. That's a very big thing. I know I did it last year when I was in Bristol. I went into the wrong pit once on purpose just to see what would happen in the game. And then the second time around I did it by accident. So that's a very big consideration to take in mind, is just where you're pitting, what lane your pit lane's in, and just really having that hammered down before you step onto track tonight.
We're expecting nothing less than madness and chaos here as we step into the Last Great Colosseum for this first elimination race. But first, it's time for the Star Spangled Banner and O Canada, followed by the 4 most famous words in racing.
And now, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshal, Driver, start your engine!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just about set to go for tonight's Canes Camp 250, and we've got just enough time to go through probably the majority of the qualifying order here. And on pole tonight, the regular season champion with a time of 15.39 seconds. It's the number 11 Midwest Elite Ford Mustang of Scott Bailey out of Allendale, Michigan.
Yeah, and for the regular season champ, that's got to be some very, very big confidence going into tonight's race. I know pole here at Bristol is really important, as is track position. So he's going to want to just get ahead of the field and just fly on with it.
And Bailey can count wins at Phoenix and Dover among his 4 over the course of this season. So certainly a guy who's comfortable on the short tracks, as is the man next to him on the front row, Corbin McCauley, winner at Richmond and Martinsville last season.
Yeah, and Martinsville is coming up soon in the playoffs as well. But tonight, Corbin McCauley has a very great start in here at Bristol to really get the pip on Scott.
And going to row 2 now, we have McCauley's Red Dirt Racing teammate, Jacob Nelson out of Clarksville, Tennessee, starting in 3rd.
Yeah, and Jacob has been consistent all season long. He had a string of great finishes earlier in the season on the podium pretty much every single week. So we'll have to see tonight what happens with Jacob in Bristol.
And alongside him on row 2, our current series leader, the number 64 Atlantic Motorsports Ford Mustang of Darcy Ford out of Harrington, PEI, won at Darlington a few weeks ago. That's just one of his 4 victories this season.
Yeah, and he pipped off Chad there for the win at Darlington, and I know it's a make or break for Chad here tonight, but Darcy, he's got some strength on the short tracks, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there running in the front early on and even later in this race.
Rounding out the top 5 is the number 41 Stars and Stripes Ford Mustang of Jose Mercado out of Kissimmee, Florida. Mercado, again, still looking for that victory, still comfortably in the playoffs, currently 7th right now, but you know he'd love to grab that checkered flag here at some point.
Yeah, I know he would really love to grab that checkered flag, and to do it at Bristol would just put a stamp of authority on it too. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's also running up there with Darcy. I know they're very good rivals on track, so they'll be bumping each other around tonight for sure.
Now we come to our second Midwest Elite car in the field as Michael Wolford qualifies 6th in the number 7 Ford Mustang out of Kindy, Michigan.
Yeah, and Michael Wolford's going to need to make some spots up here tonight too. He could be potentially there or around the bubble if Andy Hurdle can get ahead of him on track. But Michael Wolford is in a very good starting spot to get a lead on some of the drivers that he's protecting his spot from.
Wolford currently 7 points safe from the drop zone as we get the official notice to join into the race here. We're just getting that all finalized on our end. And as we do, we'll bring you the rest of the top 10 at minimum. And we talked about him a little bit earlier, but Chad Hyder starting in 7th in the number 37 Team Huzzah Ford Mustang out of Dayton, Ohio, with sponsorship from Racing Roots with Ham and the U.S. Navy. Again, very much a must-win situation.
Yeah, must win here tonight for Chad if he wants to keep his playoffs hope alive. But he's done well at the short tracks, so I wouldn't count him out at all here tonight.
Yeah, nearly won at Darlington there a few weeks ago. Again, we've talked about him as that guy, probably among the best without a win in the series over the last year and a half. And alongside him on row 4, another Stars and Stripes Toyota, this one being the number 97 of Ty Higginbotham out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, and they have that short track at Kansas that Ty's probably familiar with. So tonight could play into Ty's hands.
And we'll just give you the rest of the top 10 super quickly here. Starting in 9th is Reggie Kime, the Cobra Kai Racing Ford, currently 13th in the standings, 5 points out of the playoffs. And then rounding out the top 10 is last week's winner, John Peden, also driving for Cobra Kai out of Pensacola, Florida, as we bring you live here. Scott Bailey leading the field around the virtual Bristol Motor Speedway just as soon as, we actually get some audio. Let's just see if I can figure out what's going on. We did have audio before. Not 100% sure what's going on, but I can tell you that we are green flag racing here now. As again, it's a very short lap, so it's going to be fast-paced, and again, there's going to be a lot of laps here tonight. Remind us, MC, the breakdown.
So the laps go as stage 1, 62, stage 2, 58, stage 3, 122, and you can get 85 laps in on a full tank of fuel. So you don't expect to see any green flag stops until the third and final stage of the race.
And so, yeah, it's essentially, as you mentioned off the top, it's going to be a battle for track position, certainly as much as anything else, as, you have to basically bank on going down at least one lap, maybe 2, anytime you make a pit stop.
Yeah, you can go down laps really fast here. It's kind of like the Monaco of the NASCAR circuit. So tight, very minimum opportunities to pass, making up places really depends on pipping the other drivers who make pit stops before you and really building your lead. So that is one of the keys here tonight, is really trying to manage where your competitors are pitting and making sure you don't lose your track positions on them.
Indeed so. As you see, Scott Bailey still very much in the lead right now. McCauley in second, Nelson third. Darcy Ford in fourth, potentially trying to make a move on Nelson here for third, and it looks like Michael Wolford's jumped into the top 5 here in the early going.
Yeah, and Jose is in that picture too, right behind Michael Wolford. I can't see who's quite behind them just yet. It looks like it's Peden, and they're pretty much all just running in order here now too.
Essentially right now, that's absolutely what we're looking at as we see second place Corbin McCauley. Again, winner at Kansas a little bit earlier this year, as well as the road course at Sonoma. And now Kansas obviously a little bit longer, but potentially something that he can take from there, not to mention his wins at Richmond and Martinsville last season.
Yeah, and Corbin had a pretty good win at Martinsville last year. I know Martinsville is coming up, so he might be excited to do a repeat win there when that round comes up. But tonight, he's really got to get the hammer down on Scott.
Just as it was last year, Martinsville will be our round of 8 eliminator, the final race before we get to the Championship 4. So certainly some high stakes there, as, again, McCauley still running in second, Nelson third, Ford in fourth. Wolford rounds out the top 5 with Scott Bailey in the lead, as you can see. So, again, 2 Midwest Elite guys in the top 5, and for Wolford, this is a good start, especially since we alluded to it off the top. Needing to make up a few points potentially in the stages to just give himself a little more security going into the round of 12 potentially.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the people that could potentially spoil it for him is Chad Hyder, if Chad can get a good race under his belt. I know right now he's riding in the mid-pack by the looks of it. So those two will be very close in my eye to watch here tonight.
Meanwhile, it looks like Darcy Ford has made the move on Jacob Nelson as we watch the number 9. Nelson down into 4th place as you see Ford up into 3rd.
Oh, bit of a shake there.
And you're seeing that a little bit from, a number of the drivers coming around the track here. Obviously, very tight quarters here, so control going to be at a premium.
Control is going to be at a premium, and like I noted in the pre-race show, making the adjustments at your pit stops is going to be key here tonight to make sure. Oh, there's Chad spinning out on my screen.
And that is not what he certainly wanted to see there as we check in on Darcy Ford right now. Again, he's up into third place. We will get to Chad Hyder as we make our way through the field.
No, but going back to it. So making adjustments during your pit stops is going to be very important here tonight. As we see right now, a lot of these drivers are getting used to the track, getting a handle on it. We saw Darcy Ford get a snap of oversteer there coming out of turns. It was either turn 2 or 4. That's where you can get some major snaps of oversteer, and if your car is a little too tight, you'll get a little bit of understeer, and it'll drive you right into the safer barrier on the outside of the track, other than the inside of the track with oversteer. So adjustments are going to be imperative here tonight.
And speaking of inside and outside, it looks like Ford's going to try and make a move on the inside of Corbin McCauley here for second place. That may come in the next couple laps. That's the other thing about Bristol. You get into lap traffic very quickly here as Bailey is just tucked in behind the back of, I think that's Trent Nielsen.
Sporting a new paint scheme here tonight. But yeah, you could just see it. Scott was using that car as a pick, and it looked like Darcy Ford was going to use him as a pick there too on Corbin McCauley.
And he did, because he's up into second now as we see him on our screen.
That was a heck of a move there.
And now they're coming up on Michael Robinson in the number 47 Atlantic Motorsports Ford Mustang, sponsored by Blue Lobster. Again, Atlantic Motorsports teammate, could Darcy Ford potentially use him as a pick, or will Scott Bailey potentially beat him to the punch?
Scott's pretty smart there out on track, so I think he'd be wise to a pick coming up there.
And now we check in on Jose Mercado, currently in 6th place by the looks of things.
And just behind Michael Wolfert there.
And there you see the front of the 77 of Reggie Kime poking his nose in there as well. And Kime, he's a guy who's got to make up some points here too. Enters the night 5 points out of that 12th spot.
Yeah, and Reggie has been one of my drivers who's been a stellar driver so far this season. Really always there when he needs to be. And you know what? He's just right behind Jose Mercado. I'm giving him a bit of a bump draft there and not giving any quarter up on track right now.
But speaking of giving things up, you saw Robinson taking that lower line just to allow cars to get through. That's the good gentlemanly thing to do here, certainly from the 47. So good to see that, and we're able to promote some good, clean racing here as we move on to Michael Wolford trying to get onto the back of Jacob Nelson. That would be for 4th place if he's able to get to him.
Yeah, it kind of looks like there are kind of 2-3 separate packs here now. So it's Jacob Nelson and Michael Wolford driving in a pack, and then the front 3 drivers in Scott, Corbin, and Darcy. So Jacob and Michael really need to pick up the pace if they want to get up onto the back of Corbin McCauley, as do the pack that is being led right now by Reggie Kime, who just gets ahead of...
contact there, though, between Wolford and Nelson, and Wolford gets through. He's up into 4th.
Wow, that was crazy. Yeah, so like I said, that was Reggie Kime getting past Jose Mercado there on track 2, right when that was happening.
Indeed it was, as we're going to go to, as we mentioned before, the number 37 of Chad Hyder, and we mentioned that he got into the wall a little bit earlier in this stage. That's absolutely not what he needed if he wants to keep his playoff hopes alive here.
Not at all, and it looks like he has some damage on my screen. He's just getting past Trent there on track. He has the number 2 of Daniel Cudmore right behind him. So he looks like he has a bit of clear track here now. He's driving a little bit of the high side, which can be a little advantageous. The high side is a little bit difficult, but you get a little bit more speed and you lose a little less speed on exit of the corner there too.
As we move on now to the number 97 Stars and Stripes Racing Toyota of Ty Higginbotham out of Kansas City, Missouri. It looks like Higginbotham is trying to get up on the, I'm not sure if that's Nelson or Zach Sullivan right ahead of him. Red spoiler, that's Nelson. Because, again, that's the indicator here as we see Nelson going high again. I wonder if he's having connection issues.
He might be having some connection issues, if not some issues inside the car itself. But that looks very squirmy out on track as Ty's got Ryan Gibson breathing down the neck of him right now.
Yeah, it looks like Jacob Nelson's kind of the one falling down the field here a little bit, at least in the early going. And we'll do our best to get some position checks and lap checks. MC, that could be a cue to head into the old Discord chat to hear from our drivers as we work to get some YouTube streams up to give you a bit of race control updates here as well. Meanwhile, we'll check in on the 77 of Reggie Kime as well, driving that Cobra Kai Racing Ford Mustang out of Muskogee, Oklahoma. Again, came into tonight 5 points out of the playoffs, so Kime with a little bit of work to do if he wants to get into the round of 12. And again, we're just getting the updates here from our drivers here as Mark Cox is just checking with them on our separate Discord server, and I understand we've got an update.
Yeah, so it was 23 at the line, but that was probably far past. So we're probably 23, 24, 25 at the line right now, or 20 at the line. Sorry, I counted up, not down. Yeah, so like we said at the beginning, the laps go down really fast. 15 seconds was around the pole time, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely flying by here, as you mentioned, as we, again, try to watch a few more of the drivers here. We can tell you Kime's in 5th place right now, so he's off to a good start, and Michael Wolford, that's a guy he's got to track down, so this is for position that we're watching right now.
Oh, and he's going to get it too.
Kime, I think, on the inside. Looks like he will have it, and he'll have the inside line into turn 1. He's got it.
That was a nice move by Reggie Kime. And like I say, Reggie has been one of my very impressive drivers this season. I have been so impressed by Reggie's driving. Just unbelievable. He's been there every weekend, and he hasn't put a finger wrong. He's always on pace. He could hit it with the big guns. He's just a very impressive driver to watch. Oh, there's a crash!
Oh, no, that looked like Darcy Ford may have gotten caught up in something. Is that Hyder again? It is.
Yes, Darcy Ford got caught up there. Chad Hyder. I'll have to go back and see. Oh, it looks like Corbin McCauley's in that crash too.
So that's our lead pack. So I wonder if potentially we've got some back markers that may have gotten tangled up with the leaders here. And again, with so much at stake tonight, that could, potentially lead to things going a bit awry here as we see John Peden, last week's winner from Road America, in that number 53 Cobra Kai Chevy out of Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Corbin really took the hit there, getting right into the side panel of Chad Hyder. So it doesn't look like it's Chad's day-to-day. He's
However,
being around on track there. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It looks like, I thought we saw Darcy Ford spinning, but it looks like he got out of there relatively unscathed as he's second. Scott Bailey continues to lead. Reggie Kime, whose stream we're watching in the studio, is third, as we've got 13 laps remaining in this stage. Michael Wolford in fourth. Ryan Gibson rounds out the top 5.
So it's been very interesting so far. That's good movement from Ryan Gibson there on track as well. As I was watching Jacob Nelson, it looked like he got caught up in it too, but he's been battling his own problems in the car as well. But a litany of cars getting caught up in that collision there.
Meanwhile, let's go back a second here as we just saw Reggie Kime make a pass on Darcy Ford. He's up into second in this stage now.
Wow.
And, you see Scott Bailey continuing to pull away here. The gap is about 2 seconds between Bailey and Kime as they come to the line. And it'll be about 10 laps remaining here. Matter of fact, it is exactly 10, maybe 9 on our screen here, actually.
So will it be Kime time tonight?
And what a time to get it if it was to be Kime time as he comes across again. 9 laps to go.
Ooh, that was a good look there from Darcy, but he just got the door closed on him. I think that was by Hunter Young. who is right behind Reggie Kime, sorry.
Meanwhile, you see, I think that's Scott Bailey and Corbin McCauley together on track, but that's no longer for track position that you're seeing on the screen.
Yeah, that's Corbin McCauley getting lapped here. He was doing so well earlier on, and it looks like Reggie's really got the pace in the car right now. He's almost caught up right to the back of Scott.
Yeah, that gap well under a second here now, so Reggie Kime, he may well have a shot at the stage win here, the Oklahoma native, if he can get past Corbin McCauley on the inside line. Oh, Kime getting a little bit loose out of turn 4, though, so that, I don't know if he'll have enough time. Meanwhile, Darcy Ford getting right up onto the back of him again.
Yeah, Darcy had to get on the brakes there to avoid contact with Reggie Kime. Otherwise, he would have been in the rear end of Kime there.
Meanwhile, we'll go backwards here to Scott Bailey at the head of the field just for the last couple laps of this stage. And we will certainly get to the rest of the field here as the race progresses. Obviously, it goes very quickly here at Bristol. And we'll get an official lap count here from Kime as he gets loose again. 4 laps remaining. I think 3 maybe at the line here for Bailey now. As Kime's falling down the field, down into 4th now. Ford in 2nd, Wolford in 3rd. And Bailey making his way around. He's got his teammate Matthew Paytak ahead of him, so he can clear it as a bit of a guide here coming into the last lap or 2 of this stage. Precise count, sir.
So what I heard from Corbin McCauley was 3 laps to go, but he may have been a lap down himself, so probably 2 to go at the line.
Yeah, let's go with 2 laps to go here as Bailey gets past Paytak here on track. And Bailey, he's been able to keep it clean here so far, which is absolutely the name of the game at Bristol, as I think that's going to be the cue to end the stage here, as he's not particularly fast right now.
No, I think he actually just got on the brakes there.
The final lap here then. Darcy Ford maybe with an outside shot at taking the stage, but that will not come to pass, as that will surely be our first caution of the evening, with Scott Bailey taking the stage victory, and with it, the playoff point.
So that's some good movement from Scott Bailey there. I know he is looking for that first win in the playoffs. He did such a dominant job in the regular season, very, very neck and neck with Darcy Ford. I know it was very tight whether or not Scott would clinch the regular season championship, because Darcy Ford had such a awesome drive at Darlington and just clinched that win at the end there.
And we'll sort everything out for you from a points perspective. On the other side, we're going to take another commercial break. On the other side, we'll have stage number 2 of tonight's Canes Camp 250, and hopefully we'll have our in-game audio fixed here at some point, because we know that's still a bit of an issue here, so please bear with us.
Growth requires flexibility, the boldness to try something new, the wisdom to take care of what you already have, to get to know yourself, to step out and connect, to build something.
And we're back underway in stage number 2 here. We've got everything going here. Scott Bailey in the lead. Michael Wolford, his Midwest Elite teammate, jumping up into 2nd. It looks like Ryan Gibson up into 3rd here to start the stage. MC, let's run down that top 10.
So the top 10 goes, as we saw, Scott Bailey won the stage, followed by Darcy Ford in 2nd, with Ty Higginbotham in 3rd, Ryan Gibson in 4th, Reggie Kime in 5th, Michael Wolford in 6th, Kevin Daigle in 7th, Mike Marini in 8th, Jacob Nelson in 9th, and Jonathan Peden in 10th.
10th, exactly where he started tonight's race, and so we'll give you a bit of an insight as to where that's going to put everybody points-wise here, because I expect a little bit of movement now on account of some of those stage results. And let's just go ahead and we're just about ready to show this off here for you, our live point tracker. And yeah, things are a lot tighter now as a result of that stage. And we do have some movement here now as we're going to take our first look at our live stats here tonight. So, as we would have mentioned off the top, Ford, Peden, and Bailey already through on points. And Ryan Gibson, I think he may have actually clinched his spot in round 2 on points as well, now that he's 51 up. Yeah, because you can only max out at 50 from here. So Gibson's qualified for the round of 12 at this point. Corbin McCauley rounds out the top 5. And we'll continue our march through the field here as we go 6 through 10. You've got Mike Marini in 6th, Jose Mercado 7th, Ty Higginbotham with a solid job there. Gets a little bit closer to his teammate, but remains 8th. Matthew Paytak still in 9th, but a little bit more pressure here from Jacob Nelson, who rounds out the top 10. But again, where things get really interesting is the battle at the bubble here, so to speak, because with that 5th place finish in stage number 1, Reggie Kime moves up into 12th, 1 point ahead of Andy Hurdle.
So, yeah, that's some great movement from Reggie Kime. And I know it's Andy Hurdle who's on the bubble right now, but he is still working his way through these oval races, and he's really cleaning up at the road courses. But I know it's a hard time trying to get yourself used to racing on ovals, and but Andy's done a really good job at it all year.
And then Kevin Daigle obviously helping himself a little bit with that 7th place finish in the stage as well. Obviously still a ways off here, so to speak. Probably still in that must-win territory. And then 16th place Chad Hyder, same deal, just without the points to show for it in stage 1.
Yeah, and he's a bit behind the 8 ball right now. So if Chad wants any shot in making it through to the playoffs, to the further rounds in the playoffs, he's really got to win here tonight.
And again, we sincerely apologize for the lack of in-game audio here. We're trying to fix this up as we speak here. And yeah, just not 100% sure why it's not working at this particular juncture, because it was working in our pre-race testing as we check in on Corbin McCauley, who certainly would like to have things working a little bit differently, as it looked like the back end almost went on him going through the turn.
Ooh, that was some squirming there from Andy Hurdle.
And Hurdle, again, now that he's 1 point out, maybe a little bit more desperation out of the 44, and we'll have to monitor that over the course of the evening as well as we check on Jacob Nelson now.
Oh, there's some cars down on track there.
And yeah, you saw that on your secondary view. It looks like Michael Robinson was one there, as you mentioned. Oh, I think that's Nielsen there getting caught up. It caught Jacob Nelson right on our screen. Again, Nelson with a little bit of breathing room in the playoff picture, but not wanting to take any chances whatsoever, particularly on what's effectively his home track in Tennessee. And Hyder spun again.
Oh my goodness, it's not Chad's night here tonight at all.
No, indeed it is not, as we will continue our trek through the field here. It looks like Nielsen is making his way into pit lane. Meanwhile, back up to the head of the field where we find Darcy Ford. He looks like he'd be in about 7th place right now, as he's got Reggie Kime there ahead in 6th.
Yeah, and it's an interesting battle right now here between Reggie Kime and Darcy Ford, as Reggie's got 2 cars ahead of him in Mike Marini, and by the looks of it, I can't tell. Is that Ty Higginbotham there? 97?
Yes, yeah. 97 would be Higgy, yes.
So, yeah. Oh, as it looks like it's going to be Darcy who's going to get a move done there. Nope, he's just closed the door on Darcy Ford there. But, yeah, Reggie's got these 2 cars ahead of him that he's racing with, so he doesn't want to lose his position on Darcy right now.
Indeed not, as we continue our way through the field now. Again, we see Ford trying to find a way past Kime and Higginbotham for that matter. Meanwhile, we'll check in on the 41 of Jose Mercado, who is kind of running his own little race here by the looks of things. Looks like he's got the number 2 of Daniel Cudmore there, rather unfortunately painted in what I understand to be Montreal Canadiens colors after last night.
Unfortunate or fortunate, depending on how you look at it.
In my unbiased view as a professional, I'm going to say unfortunate. There wasn't a bet on that, thank God.
It's divided in my household too. I'm a Leafs fan. I've lived in Toronto, but my dad is a die-hard Montreal Canadiens fan. So as well, my brother's also a Leafs fan. So they were arguing all throughout the playoffs there.
Meanwhile, no argument about Michael Wolford turning in a strong race here so far, currently running in second place. He's got his teammate Scott Bailey there ahead of him with a bit of a gap between the two, probably about 1.5 to 2 seconds, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, and if they're playing the team game, Michael Wolford, is there solely to be the block between him and Ryan Gibson, and just to pad the lead for Scott, as it looks like Scott's really just driving away with the field right now.
But at some point, though, Wolford's got to think of his own race here, too, as, he's certainly helped himself in terms of playoff positioning to try and get into the round of 12, as we see Robinson going on that lower line again. But, again, Wolford not necessarily a lock just yet.
No, yeah, as we've said in the beginning, he's 7 points up on 13th place. So it's very touch and go right now for Michael Wolford if he wants to make it through. But right now, as he stands right behind his teammate in second place, it's looking very good for Michael right now.
Yeah, and again, of course, the stage points that he picked up in stage 1 as well certainly helped his cause as we take a quick peek there. That puts him in 11th place still, but with a 7-point gap between himself and Andy Hurdle, who's currently in 13th. So, again, a little bit of breathing room, but not much.
Yeah, and you know what? With that crash that put Jacob Nelson down, that could really play into his hand as well.
And, yeah, we'll have to see potentially how that goes. As you say, Nelson not necessarily out of the woods there in 10th, particularly if we have another incident like we had a little bit earlier. But for now, we'll go to Chad Hyder, who's just had, certainly not the most favorable of nights there in that number 37 team Huzzah Ford.
No, and you know what? That's just racing. I had that experience last weekend myself, racing in the 6 hours of Monza in the GT World Cup for the SimGrid series. I had some very bad luck. My pedals came unconnected from my PC, and I just had crash after warming up my tires. It's motorsports. It can happen to the best of them. Lewis Hamilton's had it. Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s had it. We've all had it at some point while racing. And you know what? Not to put Chad down at all. He's been an excellent driver in our series and one of the best without a win, which is so surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, it just hasn't been his night here tonight as we look in for a lap count. 20 laps remaining in stage number 2. Again, they absolutely fly by here in this particular track here, Bristol.
15 seconds. So you're getting about a lap. Yeah, that's a lot of laps every second.
Yeah, roughly 3 to 4 laps per minute here as we see. We're going to see Reggie Kime cross the line here, so we'll get a better count. 18 laps remaining now in stage 2. And we may get Mark to just officially confirm our leader. We're assuming Scott Bailey's still at the head of the field. But, again, we haven't heard official confirmation on that yet. Meanwhile, we've got a battle for 6th place here between Reggie Kime and Darcy Ford. And it may actually be 5th as well. Yeah, Mike Marini's at the start of that train. This is 5, 6, 7 you're seeing on your screen. And Keim trying to get to the back of Ford first off to get into 6th. We'll see if he tries to split them here. That'd be so dangerous through the turn.
Can I get confirmation who the leaders are?
But again, these three, they're racing pretty competitively here as Keim gets through into 6th. And we'll see if he tries to get a move on Darcy Ford to get himself back into the top 5.
Thank you.
And so, Keim just going around the outside here on Ford. Again, that would be an interesting move here as they got so close together here. MC, what do we got?
So, it is, as we suspected, it is Scott Bailey, followed by Michael Wolford, and then Ryan Gibson in 3rd.
And yeah, so we don't have 4th place right ahead of us, but this is 5, 6, 7 that you're seeing on track right now. Ford in 5th, Reggie Keim still here in 6th, Mike Marini 7th. As I believe Corbin McCauley may still be lap traffic, but perhaps not. Not 100% sure on that. As we'll continue our way through the field where we find John Peden now, again last week's winner at Road America. And very much already locked into the round of 12 based on that utterly dominant victory. One of the most dominant, if not the most dominant, that we've seen in the NASCAR series over the last year and a half.
Yeah, I thought Corbin really ran away with it in the Formula One series, but the NASCAR is just a whole different league of its own. So that is such utter dominance from last week.
Right you are, partner, as we're going to just fly through the field here really quickly. We got Kevin Daigle in 11th place, but just may have dipped down to 12th as a matter of fact, as we just missed him clipping the wall on the front straight. And we'll get a lap count here. Meanwhile, it looks like Marini may have made some contact there on the front straight. There you see him coming back up off the apron. So, Mike Marini falling off a little bit as we've got 8 laps remaining in the stage. And Marini drops to 10th, even 11th after that, dropping behind his teammate Kevin Daigle.
So, Reggie Keim's also moved up to 4th place on our driver tractor here. Oh, there's a big spin!
Oh, no, we didn't quite catch that. We see someone going low there. I think that may have been Gibson, actually.
That may have been Gibson.
Yeah, Reggie Keim up into 2nd here now. And that would affect the head of the field, certainly. As we, just caught that on our screens here as we check on Marini once again in 11th. Let's get back to the head of the field now where we should find Scott Bailey. There he is, our pole sitter. Again, was the leader at last check. And we've got 5 laps remaining in this stage.
So was that Michael Wolford and Ryan Gibson both getting into it there?
Yeah, that would be 2-3 certainly.
Yeah, because Reggie was in 4th. Wow, that's some big changes here at the end of the stage, no less.
Indeed so, as you know, Scott Bailey's got a lot more breathing room here now that those two have effectively taken each other out. But Michael Wolford, that potentially puts him back into play in the elimination side of things. But again, we'll just have to see how he does in relation to those around the bubble.
Yeah, I know Andy was battling really hard with Jason Butler when I checked in on the Discord channel.
2 laps remaining in the stage.
Yeah, they were having a great battle going on track there.
And we may actually be on the final lap of this stage here now as Bailey works his way down and through. And again, coming through turns 3 and 4. Everything happens so fast here at Bristol. And let's just see. It doesn't look like he's slowed down just yet, so perhaps one more lap here. Oh, no, there's the slowdown. And that will be our second caution here of the evening. So again, we suspect that's another stage win for Scott Bailey, and indeed it is. Bailey wins the stage, Keim 2nd, Higginbotham 3rd, Ford 4th, Ryan Gibson rounds out the top 5, and we'll get the official top 10 here in just a moment. We'll take one more commercial break, And then we're going to be in for a very, very long third stage here as we wrap up the round of 16 at the Canes Camp 250 on the Canadian E-Motorsports Network. Stay with us.
Growth requires flexibility, the boldness to try something new, the wisdom to take care of what you already have, to get to know yourself, to step out and connect, to build something.
We are back here now for the start of stage number 3 in tonight's Canes Camp 250. There you see Scott Bailey taking off once again. It's going a little quick here for me. There's the restart overlay. There we go. Bailey in the lead. It looks like Reggie Kime there in second right now, just as it was at the end of stage 2. And MC, go ahead with the rest of the top 10.
So I will carry you to the rest of the top 10 of stage 2, which would be Scott Bailey, as we know, who won the stage, Reggie Kime in second, Ty Higginbotham in third, Darcy Ford in fourth, Ryan Gibson in fifth, Jonathan Peden in sixth, Andy Hurdle in seventh, Jonathan War in eighth, and Corbin McCauley in ninth, and Mike Marini in 10th.
All right, and we'll see how that, again, affects the playoff picture here. Hurdle picking up some playoff points is obviously, or stage points, excuse me, is obviously a big deal for him as he tries to fight his way back into the round of 12 after missing out, or after getting bumped out of it in the last stage. So let's just see how things shake out here, and it looks like we have a 3-point gap here as we're going to take a closer look at our overall standings once we get everything back up and running. And there we go. Let's go ahead and pull up our live stats here once again. So there you see Darcy Ford still in top spot here. He and John Peden, of course, already clinched their spots in the round of 12, as did Scott Bailey on points. Ryan Gibson clinched on points as well. Corbin McCauley has also clinched on points now that he's 41 up on 13th place. And now we'll continue our way through the live standings here. We'll give you 6 through 10. Mike Marini in 6th place. There you see with that one stage point here tonight, that certainly helped his cause. Jose Mercado, no stage points over the course of the evening, but still very comfortably in 7th. Ty Higginbotham with 16 stage points out of a possible 20 here tonight. That's got him within striking distance of Mercado just at the end of the round of 16. And it should be noted here that at the round of 12, the points will reset once again based on playoff points and everything that's been picked up. Matthew Paytak remains in 9th, and that's actually a tie now with Reggie Kime moving up into the standings here as well. 15 points out of a possible 20 here tonight for Reggie, so he's really putting the pedal to the metal when it matters.
Yeah, and he's sitting in 2nd place right now very comfortably, although he does have Darcy Ford right behind him. He did have a bit of a look on Scott Bailey earlier on at the beginning of Stage 3 and is looking like he has a very fast car underneath him right now.
And now we take a look at the playoff picture here, or at least the bubble picture, it should be said. Jacob Nelson drops into 11th with, again, Reggie Kime's strong performance here tonight. Michael Wolford still the man on the bubble right now. The gap is now 3 between himself and Andy Hurdle, as Hurdle made up 4 points in that second stage. So I think we're in for a battle here in this third and final stage for that last playoff spot.
Yeah, very, very much so. As I get a look here on my screen, Darcy Ford gets a move done on Reggie Kime for 2nd place.
Indeed he does. And
that was some big movement down there. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. A lot of things to watch here in such a short window. And speaking of windows, what do you think we're looking at for a pit window here now that we've got the one green flag stage?
So you get 85 laps on a full tank of fuel. So, you know what? I would just run down those laps as much as you can. There's 122 in the stage. So if you run them down as far as you can possibly just make this stage with one stop.
And I would imagine that's what most, if not all, of the drivers will be doing, particularly Jacob Nelson here. Now that he's in a little bit of danger, as we see a bit of contact there between True North teammates Warren Marini. And certainly no intention there, although it looks like Darcy Ford is kind of in that, or no, that was Wolford in that pack as well. So if you're the number 7, that's getting a little bit hairy for you.
Yes, indeed it is for Michael Wolford. He's looking like he's right ahead of, or right behind.
Looks like Mercado's right behind Wolford there.
Who is in front of Wolford, though, is what I'm trying to figure out. I think it might be...
That's War.
Jonathan War. Okay, so he's a lapped car there.
Well, War actually finished 8th in Stage 2. So
okay, so
he was there. And we'll have to see here in a matter of moments, but just for the time being, we're going to go to a radio broadcast here for a second as we try to figure out what's going on with the PlayStation 4 game audio. So we're just going to go to the loop just for a second because we don't want to lose the picture here either. So we're going to do that, and MC, you might be able to watch something on your screen as we kind of try and fix this up in real time.
Yes, so I'm following along here with Scott Bailey, so I'll quickly go through it. It looks like Scott Bailey's pulled out a bit of a lead on Darcy Ford here now, who is right behind him, but it looks like Scott has a very comfortable gap. It'll really come down to the pit stops, though, where Scott can either lose it or win it, but I can't really find Reggie Kime anymore. It looks like he's kind of dropped off there. Oh, he's still in 3rd. I just couldn't find him on track on my screen. But he seems to be out of the way of any lapped traffic as we see this very big gaggle of cars here on the other screen in the midfield. That would be Matthew Patak, Jacob Nelson, Jose Mercado, Mike Marini, and all of those, as we just saw before we cut to the radio message as we get audio back.
And you gotta love tech support sometimes. Sometimes it really is just as easy as unplugging and plugging back in. And we're gonna plug right back into this broadcast here as we check on Darcy Ford, who looks like he may have a run on Scott Bailey here.
Yeah, it looks like he may have a little bit of a run. Scott looks like he slowed down a little bit, maybe conserving some fuel, just, going a little off the throttle a little bit more than Darcy Ford might be. Darcy might be actually burning a lot more fuel than Scott is.
But what would the rationale be on that? Because, again, you're looking at 122 laps in this stage. You know you're pitting under green anyway, so what would be the rationale there? Just kind of trying to hit a particular window, or is there a potential for a cut either way for the 11?
It could be just hitting that pit window that he really wants to hit. If he could save those extra bit of, if he could save those laps and really cut down further than what Darcy Ford might stop at, he could potentially pull a Max Verstappen in Monaco just a couple weeks ago and overcut the entire field. If he has the ultimate pace in the car, once he saves those laps of fuel, he could really put the hammer down and clear a gap on Darcy Ford after Darcy pits.
And now we'll continue our trek through the field. We find Jose Mercado here on our screens, and I don't have a position immediately on the 41. It looks like he's got Jacob Nelson tucked in right behind him, though. And again, both playoff drivers, both looking for the moment at least like they're going to get through to the round of 12. Certainly Mercado with a lot more security than Jacob Nelson on that front.
Yeah, Jose does have a little bit more security there on Jacob Nelson. And it was some very big points that Michael Wolford was able to gain in that second stage and move himself up.
And again, we're with Wolford now as Nielsen goes high. Wolford hits him in the back. And speaking of back, this is Trent Nielsen's first race back since, I guess, a bit of a back surgery that he had a few weeks ago. So interesting to see him be back behind the wheel. Certainly good to see him back behind the wheel.
Back behind the wheel after some back surgery.
I honestly wasn't going for that, but yes, that is correct.
Oy!
There as both Nielsen and Robinson go down low, almost in sync with one another.
But yes, it's good to have Trent back on track. Oh, wow! That was a car up in the air on my screen.
Yeah, we didn't quite catch it there as Chad Hyder, we see him in pit lane. I don't see any movement there. That's not looking good.
No, I do believe that might be a disconnect for Chad Hyder, as I saw him a couple laps ago on my screen in the pits without any movement in his tires.
And that would certainly end his playoff hopes if that's how it goes down here. Meanwhile, we've got a battle for fourth place brewing between Ty Higginbotham, who we're watching, and Reggie Kime just ahead of him. So battle between Stars and Stripes and Cobra Kai here, with Ryan Gibson lurking in the background there as well.
Yes.
As we'll just get the count on Kime's stream at the line. And that's going to tell us there's, I believe, 85 laps remaining in tonight's race. So a long way to go, but a short way at the same time, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. One frame of mind you could look at this at, you could pit now and get a full tank of fuel and just pit earlier than everyone else. Although I don't think that's going to pay off any favors if you do that. But I think we're watching 4th through 6 here now, are we?
Yeah, they're just trying to weave their way through some lap traffic here. Jason Butler at the head of that line as we're watching Reggie Kime still in 4th. With, again, Higginbotham right there and
Ryan Gibson's right behind Higginbotham.
Yep, and that is 4 through 6 according to the Kime Time stream here that, again, we're watching in studio. And so, again, Scott Bailey's still your leader. The gap, well, I was going to say the gap's 4.5 seconds as we're down to 79 laps to go. Perhaps 78 for our race leader. As I think we are seeing some early pit stops here. I think we're into that very, very early window for those drivers looking to make the undercut, and we'll do our best to give you a bit of an outlet here. One of those drivers in pit lane is Kevin Daigle right now. He pitted from, I believe, 13th. And so meanwhile, we had cars going in the opposite directions here on the track. Not 100% sure what went on there, but we saw, it looked like Robinson going up the track, Nielsen going down the track the correct way. So not 100% sure what was going on there, but we're back on track now with John Peden in the 53 as he tries to get a bit of a bump off of Michael Dimitrov.
So
Daigle rejoins. Oh, right next to him. Yikes.
Oh, wow, that was close. I do have some updates here. It is Scott Bailey, Darcy Ford, and Corbin McCauley. That's your top 3. That was from Corbin McCauley himself. And when he gave me that update, they had 77 to go at the line.
And again, we'll keep a close eye on the laps here as they tick down very, very quickly here at Bristol Motor Speedway. Matter of fact, 74 now, according to Reggie Kime's stream, as we check in on Kevin Daigle, who's rejoined in 17th after his pit stop. He's one of the very first to come in. Didn't fix up the damage on the front of that number 13 True North Racing Toyota. Potentially looking to make up some time through the other pit stops here as he tries desperately to get into the round of 12. And he's certainly got an uphill battle for himself as we take a closer look once again at the points 11 through 15 especially. We'll just fire those up here one more time. And there you see Daigle is currently 15th in the standings. He's 25 back of Michael Wolford. So it's effectively, well, with 25 in the field, you have to win if you're Kevin Daigle. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, and in 17th, that's a mountain to climb to get up to the lead. And then you have to overtake the lead. So it's a bit of an uphill battle right now for Reggie Kime.
or Kevin Daigle,
Kevin Daigle, sorry.
there, he has jumped up to 15th, but I think that's a couple of pit stops helping him as we check on his True North teammate Mike Marini running in 8th place. And Marini currently 6th overall in the standings, as we've got 69 laps remaining now. And again, Marini trying to make his way around here. He's been, fairly solid. Usually a guy that you can rely on to at least be in the conversation toward the end. And, looking very comfortable in terms of getting into the round of 12. As it looks like Bailey and McCauley are headed to pit lane.
Yeah, that's Scott Bailey, definitely in pit lane here now on my screen. It'll just be a question of when Darcy Ford decides to jump into pits. It looks like he is in pit lane.
So he actually jumps in 1 lap ahead of Bailey and McCauley by the looks of things. And don't worry there as, well, I guess you're not watching it on your screens as we're watching Ryan Gibson. And right now, Reggie Kime is your leader on track. So this is 1-2 that we're seeing on track right now. But again, we're in the very start of that pit window here that we were talking about, and it looks like a lot of guys are going to go for the under here.
Yeah, the under is very interesting because unlike what Darcy did a couple weeks ago at Darlington where he had the fresher tires on Chad, he pitted a lap early, so he lost that lap on Scott. But when Scott pitted, he gained that lap back. But Scott is going to have the advantage on the tires because Scott pitted that 1 lap later. So it'll be interesting to see when it all cycles back around to see what happens between Scott and Darcy.
But now, staying out a little bit longer, has Reggie Kime played himself into the conversation here?
He very well could have played himself into the picture here. Like I said earlier on, if you save your gas and you can go longer, you could potentially build enough of a gap that you can basically make a free pit stop.
But again, at the same time, you wonder about the tire wear here as well. And from your experiences, what has Bristol been like on that front as we're coming up on 60 laps to go?
Well, it's a concrete track, so prevailing wisdom would say it wouldn't be too abrasive on the tires like a track like Charlotte or Texas. So you might not be playing the tire game, more so the fuel mileage game here.
Meanwhile, we're checking in on Chase Beatty here for the first time tonight in that number 25 North Star Racing Chevy out of Lawton, Tennessee. Certainly a contender in the best of the rest category here right now as he goes around Jason Butler on the outside. Not sure if that's for position or not. Speaking of positions, I can give you a top 5. Again, we're talking about being in a bit of a pit window here right now. Reggie Kime currently your leader with 58 laps to go. Ryan Gibson right there.
Oh, it looks like he's going to get
like
past
Gibson
him.
has inherited the lead, as a matter of fact. Mike Marini in 3rd, and it looks like it's because Kime's dipping off into pit lane. So not going too much longer was Reggie Kime as we're watching him on pit lane. So again, we're kind of going through that 1 green flag pit stop window right now.
Yes, we are, and it's interesting to watch as it's a very busy pit lane as multitudes of drivers are just coming in for their pit stops.
And now the one thing about staying out 10 to 15 laps later, as it looks like Kime has here, you can take a little bit less fuel to get yourself to the end. So is that potentially a way for him to make up some time as ultimately Scott Bailey makes his way back around the track? Meanwhile, Robinson spins.
Yeah, it is. A lighter car is obviously going to go a little bit faster. But, it'll be a question of what happens in the end because I'm just really confused right now.
And again, we're just going to have to go through it here together as, again, we're just in the middle of that pit window right now. We're coming up on, we're almost at 50 laps left in this one. With, again, lots of drivers just going through their pit stops as we speak. And yeah, this is where, maybe a little bit of confusion here if you're kind of in the heat of the moment as we see Ryan Gibson in on Mark's screen. and he'll give up the lead as a result. But no, where I was going with that, maybe in the heat of the moment, do you see, obviously these guys are strong drivers, do you see one maybe make the mistake of going into the wrong pit lane?
Yeah, I definitely do. As drivers like Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson have made this exact mistake. I was reading some articles earlier on before I came into the studio saying that there's a pit lane rule, but I didn't really get into what that rule was. But yeah, a veteran driver could make that mistake. It is very easy, and they do look very similar.
Indeed so, as we watch Matthew Paytak here in the number 21 Midwest LED Racing Ford out of Vandalia, Ohio. And it looks like he's got a bit of damage on that 21, but he's currently 9th in the standings right now, so not really a whole lot for him to worry about in terms of advancing to the next stage. But I know I've talked with him personally. I know he would love dearly to grab a victory, and who knows, maybe it happens in the round of 12 for him.
Yeah, there's some very interesting tracks coming up in the round of 12, so it could play into Matthew Paytak's hands.
Indeed so, as we've got in the round of 12, we've got Auto Club, the Charlotte Roval, and Talladega. So as you say, well, Auto Club maybe not so much, but certainly the Roval and Talladega could provide some fireworks, as we will move along now to Andy Hurdle, who's trying to make some magic of his own here. Again, 3 points outside the playoffs right now. If it was to end, like after stage 2, he was 3 points back of 12th. And that may actually be worth a Discord check here, Mark, to see if we can get a comparison as to where Wolford and Hurdle are on track, to see what the differential is. And as Mark checks on that, and we greatly appreciate our drivers being able to provide a bit of context here for us on the track as we check on Jonathan War now. He finished 8th in stage number 2. But again, didn't have the best season overall. He started really strong with that 2nd at Daytona. But again, it just hasn't really added up for him here to this point in the season, and wound up missing the playoffs as a result. A couple of disconnects didn't help his cause either. And yeah, we're just getting a last-ditch update here from Mark Cox as we see Nielsen spinning again, but it looks like it's down on the apron, so not much to worry about there. Meanwhile, as we check on Michael Dimitrov, we have some numbers here regarding that battle between Hurdle and Wolford. As soon as MC gets on the mic, I don't want to put too much pressure on the guy. He's doing yeoman's work.
Michael Wolford, from what I could hear from very scratchy microphone, was 6th place.
And I can confirm that on Reggie Kime's stream here as well.
So Andy is in 8th place. So a magnificent drive for Andy Hurdle here tonight. Much like getting into the playoffs, he's doing exactly what he needs to do, albeit might be a few points down.
Right now, yeah, if it was to end at this point, Michael Wolford would finish 6 points ahead of Andy Hurdle in the overall standings. Again, there's 3 points between them going into this final stage, and Hurdle showing now in 9th according to Mike Marini's stream, as we check in now on Hunter Young for the first time. The Red Dirt Racing substitute driver from earlier this year made his debut at Iowa, acquitted himself pretty well with a few top 10s.
Yeah, very, very well introduced to this series, although he has dropped off just a little bit as the season has gone on, but he is certainly an excellent driver and an excellent addition to our series.
Yeah, he's shown that he can drive with the pace and the force of one of those waterfalls in Niagara Falls, not too far from where he is in St. Catharines racing tonight. St. Catharines, Ontario, that is. As we check in now on series founder Dan Cudmore, again, sporting that absolutely, I can't even put into words that Montreal Canadiens themed paint scheme. He promised me he wasn't going to say anything, but he didn't tell me he was going to pull this. So, DC, once you hear this, we're going to have some words.
Oh, man, I don't even know what to say. My dad tried to buy me a Montreal Canadiens jersey once, but needless to say, that one didn't last too long. So I know your pain, Jordy.
I mean, for our American listeners out there, there's an old story called the hockey sweater where everyone dressed up in the Montreal Canadiens Maurice Richard jerseys, and then a kid was all sour and basically excluded from his group because he got a Maple Leafs jersey, and it's all just so sad. And that too, of course, would denote round 2 where the Montreal Canadiens have gotten after last night. So Danny, this hurts, man, as we check in on, well, I guess the disconnected Trevor Kinsey. That would be our first look at him in the number 6 Team Huzzah Ford Mustang. And yeah, it looks like he's not moving around too much as we go back on track to the number 10 of Jason Butler, the 5190 Racing Chevy. That was Nielsen and War getting caught up. Jason Butler in there as well. Did they get the leaders?
Who else is in there?
Did they get the leaders? I don't think Bailey was in that, but we'll have to see as we've got down to... Oh, it did get Bailey. Scott Bailey did get caught up in that.
Peden also got caught up in that too.
And so we'll have to see how this all changes things here as we've got 30 laps to go.
Do you have a position on third right now? Is it still Corbin?
Corbin is still third, so I wonder if maybe Bailey's built up enough of a gap to ultimately not have that affect him too much.
There's Bailey on track. I'm following along with Jonathan Peden.
And we're going to get around to that lead battle here momentarily as we just check in on our last few drivers in the field. The number 14 Team Huzzah Ford Mustang of Lee Campbell, currently tied for the lead in the best of the rest standings going into tonight with Michael Dimitrov. 45 points over the last 2 weeks. And we'll see if the 14's got anything special in store. If, say, he wants to do a little bit of more damage to that number 2 behind him, we'd certainly welcome that. But again, we'll check in now on Trent Nielsen. Again, back after a few weeks off. Good to see him back behind the wheel here, but certainly not the night he would have wanted to have here as he's trying to get back in control coming through the start-finish straight. And now, again, we're just kind of working our way through the fields. It looks like Butler's going to get Nielsen down low. Meanwhile, I think that might be a disconnection for Michael Robinson, which would certainly explain him going backwards a little bit earlier on our stream. And now we're back to the man who's been leading for the duration of this race. And yeah, there's Scott Bailey. There's Reggie Kime ahead of him. Kime's still listed 6th. I think Bailey's basically lapped the field.
Yeah, so it definitely seems like Bailey has lapped the field, which is equally as dominant as Jonathan Peden's win last week.
Especially, yeah, here at Bristol, where, again, there's not that much space to operate. As if we're going to go based on that, we're going to go ahead and say 22 laps remaining now in tonight's Canes Camp 250.
And I'll just get a confirmation on that, too.
Yeah, we're certainly in the 20-lap remaining range, and we're going to keep it toward the lead pack here for the rest of the way, as we'll go right on the hood of Scott Bailey, now just trying to work his way through.
20 laps to go.
And so, yeah, right about where we would have suspected, and it looks like, yeah, probably just the 5 cars on the lead lap right now. If, again, seeing Kime ahead is any indication, and now Bailey's gotten ahead of Kime here too on track, as it looks like there was a bit of contact between Kime and Nelson that enabled that to happen, or Nielsen, excuse me.
Oh, yeah, and Darcy's caught up right there, too, right in the middle of that lap traffic, as Scott Bailey on my screen gets ahead of it all. So that puts Darcy and Corbin in a bit of a battle of their own, trying to get through these leaders. As I'm watching them on my screen, it looks like Corbin is right on the back of Darcy Ford.
Meanwhile, neither of them necessarily threatening Scott Bailey at the head of the field. I'd say the gap's probably in the 5 to 6 second range there now. as Ford runs high.
Corbin tried to get a look on the bottom side there.
And we'll give you a little bit of a better visual as to what that gap looks like as we'll go backwards. There you see Bailey. You got a couple of lapped cars there. I think that's Beatty and Young in the middle. Then you've got Ford and McCauley basically halfway down the straight. So that's what you're looking at for a gap if you're the number 11. So things, if he's able to keep it clean the rest of the way, things looking pretty good for win number 5 on the season for the number 11 Midwest Elite Ford.
Yeah, and looking very good. If everything goes all right here, I know it was in Charlotte where we had the leaders get taken out earlier in the season. Hopefully something like that doesn't happen here tonight.
Indeed not, as we will... I meant to get our regular camera angle back, but we're going to watch this battle for second between Corbin McCauley and Darcy Ford here, as it looks like Ford may be struggling a little bit to hold that lower line, and maybe that gives McCauley an opportunity, particularly once we get into the lap traffic.
Yeah, I know I saw earlier on Corbin used a pick of a lapped car very nicely on Darcy, but Darcy was a little bit the wiser to it, and he got out of the way just in time and managed to stay ahead of Corbin McCauley. It's neck and neck right now.
Yeah, it's effectively a drag race coming down that back straight, coming through turns 3 and 4.
Oh,
looks like Ford will hang on just for now. Oh, McCauley may actually have a nose ahead.
Oh, and
there's that pick you were talking about.
Oh, it didn't work out in the favor of either of them, as it looks. So it may have worked out in Darcy's favor, actually.
Yeah, initially it looked like McCauley was going to use it, but Ford, he saw what was up, and he kind of pushed McCauley back up into it. Not with physical contact, but just track positioning of the car. So brilliant maneuvering there from the 64 to maintain his position for now.
Yeah, and it looks like both of these drivers here tonight have equally as competitive machinery against each other, as it looks like as Corbin gets ahead of Darcy, Darcy's just a little bit smarter and manages to stay ahead of Corbin. It's a very, very good battle on track right now between second and third.
Meanwhile, it looks like Ford kind of used Dan Cudmore as a bit of a pick there, but McCauley was able to navigate around him pretty quick there. So, again, this battle for second is turning into something really good as we're down into the single digits for laps now. And Kime's screen showing 7, but we believe him to be a lap down, so we're looking at 6, potentially 5 remaining as we go back to our race leader, Scott Bailey.
Yeah, and you're right, Jordy. It does look like Darcy is struggling on that lower line, as I see him twitching just a little bit. Looks like it's something wrong with the balance of his car for him, but Corbin is notably still right behind Darcy.
Indeed, and I thought he was going to try and make a move there, but on your screen, we're still showing Ford in second. But again, we're seeing this could be the third straight week where we have our race winner also pick up the 2 stage wins. So after not really seeing that much over the course of the regular season, that'll be 3 straight weeks where we're looking at that possibility here. And 5 of the last 6, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and you know what? Kyle Larson did it the other night at where were they racing the other night? Oh, it was the big one, Charlotte. They were racing at Charlotte the other night, the Coca-Cola 600, and the Hendricks boys really put those cars on rails. And it's Corbin McCauley ahead of Darcy Ford now.
So he's got the move done, as we'll just go to that. There's the confirmation. I'm not sure what happened to Ford there, but we're going to go back to Scott Bailey as we confirm McCauley up into second, as it looks like Bailey's seeing the white flag, and as a matter of fact, has seen it according to Reggie Kime's stream, and indeed, Scott Bailey does pick up his 5th victory of the season. Corbin McCauley finishes second, Darcy Ford in third. Ty Higginbotham 4th, Ryan Gibson looks like he's going to round out the top 5, and indeed he does.
So, yeah, that was a great race from Corbin there to get the move done at the end. And more notably, Scott Bailey with his 5th win of the season coming in the round, or the end of the round of 16 at Bristol.
Meanwhile, after a late charge, it looks like Michael Wolford may have done just enough to hold on to that 12th and final playoff spot for the next round. We'll confirm all of that on the other side here as we're going to take one more commercial break. Then we'll go into the finishing order and we will update you as to who's moving on to the round of 12. Stay with us.
Growth requires flexibility, the boldness to try something new, the wisdom to take care of what you already have, to get to know yourself, to step out and connect, to build something.
And so we are back after what turned out to be a fairly eventful conclusion, at least for second place in tonight's Canes Camp 250. And again, the story, Scott Bailey, he makes it 5 wins on the season, claiming tonight's race at Bristol.
So 5 wins for a regular season champion, Scott Bailey, and it couldn't get any better than at Bristol. Getting a tough track out of the way like that. I know we have tracks like Martinsville coming up, but great win from Scott here tonight.
Indeed so, and again, we talked about it, or we saw it happen kind of at the very end. Corbin McCauley snagging second place from Darcy Ford with, again, not sure if it was a late move. Maybe Ford got caught up in traffic, but anyway, McCauley ends up P2.
Yeah, I think it was actually a snap of oversteer from Darcy Ford that lost him out on second place. But nonetheless, that was a great car control from Darcy Ford to keep it in P3 and not lose any more positions. So, Darcy Ford in third place, as we see it right here. In fourth place, we actually have Ty Higginbotham.
Indeed, a strong performance here for the number 97 Stars and Stripes Racing Toyota as he'll move on to the round of 12 rather comfortably, as a matter of fact. He'll get in kind of in that top half, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and it was a great race, great management from Ty here tonight. It was just ultimately just managing everything perfectly on Ty's end. In fifth place, we have Ryan Gibson. He is the last of the cars on the lead lap. So we only had 5 cars on the lead lap here tonight at Bristol. As we suspected, there were a lot of cars that went a lap down, but an excellent race here for Ryan Gibson, our defending Earl Ross Cup champion. So we'll have to see how the next round, which he is comfortably in, goes for him.
And we may have to hold the phone here. We may have a bit of a shocking development. We'll get into it on the other side here, but in sixth place, the first of the cars to finish a lap down, the number 77 of Reggie Kime, turning in a really good performance from start to finish.
Yeah, so Reggie was there, and like I've been saying all season long, Reggie has been one of my favorite drivers to watch all season. He's just been there and put it exactly where he needs to every single race. When it came down to qualifying for the playoffs, he did exactly what he needed to do, and tonight he put in a stellar performance here at a very difficult track to get right.
Very demanding, certainly, as we'll go through the rest of our order here, hopefully with a little bit more steam, shall we say. Mike Marini finishing in 7th place in his True North race in Toyota. He's comfortably through to the round of 12. Andy Hurdle finishes 8th, again turning in a strong finish when he needed to here tonight. Michael Wolford finishing just behind him in 9th in the number 7 Midwest LED Racing Ford out of Kindy, Michigan. Rounding out the top 10, turning in his best performance here in a while, and this will look good in the best of the rest standings. The number 29 True North Racing Toyota of Jonathan War out of Saugerties, New York.
And he had some excellent performances in the beginning of the season. And tonight, most certainly here at Bristol, a difficult track and a great top 10 for Jonathan Moore. So I could bring you 11th through 20th. So that'll go Jacob Nelson in 11th place, Jonathan Peden in 12th, Jose Mercado in 13th, Kevin Daigle in 14th, Christian Chewy? Who's Chewy?
Chewy is Hunter Young.
Hunter Young.
Finishing in 15th.
In 15th. Sorry, the new guys, I'm still learning their names on the screen here. Chase Beatty comes home in 16th place. Michael Dimitrov in 17th place. Lee Campbell in 18th place. Jason Butler in 19th place. And the man sporting the Montreal Canadian themed car, Daniel Cudmore in 20th.
And I'll bring you the final 5 here, and again, there could be some relevance here once we do the math. 21st tonight, the number 21, Matthew Patak, the Midwest Elite Racing Ford Mustang out of Vandalia, Ohio, finishes 7 laps down, as did Dan Cudmore ahead of him in 20th. Then we get to some of the guys who may have had some disconnections or other issues on track, beginning with the number 55 of Trent Nielsen out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Again, first race back after a few weeks, so perhaps understandable that he may just have to get the touch here a little bit. Michael Robinson had a disconnection midway through stage 3 to finish in 23rd. Chad Hyder saw his playoff chances go up in smoke with a 24th place finish. It just wasn't his night overall, nor was it the night for his teammate, the number 6 of Trevor Kinsey, the other team, Huzzah Ford Mustang out of Midland, Michigan, who rounds out our field of 25 here tonight. So, round of 12, again, that'll begin next week with the Domino's Pizza 200, as soon as I find the graphic. There it is. From the virtual Auto Club Speedway. Again, not necessarily the most technically demanding track, but Auto Club, it could certainly present its own set of challenges as we begin the round of 12.
Yeah, not a track that I have a lot of experience on either, so it'll be interesting to see what I can come up with on my side, but more interestingly, the drivers will have some very interesting racing as we move on to the next round in our playoff races.
And so, on that point, here we go. Let's not waste any more time with this. Let us go ahead and unveil the round of 12 here for you as we bring up our live stats one more time here tonight. And so, perhaps as expected with the victory, Scott Bailey goes back into top spot. Darcy Ford and John Peden, of course, occupying 2-3 with their respective wins. Ryan Gibson through, Corbin McCauley through. And we'll move on to 6 through 10 now. We'll just get that up here for you. And again, 6 through 10, not really a whole lot of change there. Great job from Reggie Kime to move himself up into 9th. Mike Marini 6th, Higginbotham 7th, Jose Mercado 8th. Again, Kime 9th, Jacob Nelson rounds out the top 10. Again, all of these will reset beginning next week. They'll all go to 3,000 plus their respective playoff points. But this is just kind of for positioning to ensure they're in the round of 12. And so, again, the final 2 spots go to, there you see it, Michael Wolford and Andy Hurdle both move on to the round of 12. His finish tonight eliminates the number 21 of Matthew Patak from title contention. That is not the night you wanted to have if you're the 21. And again, that puts him 7 points out. His title hopes are dashed.
Yeah, so that is some very interesting line movement we have here. Very, very great job from Andy Hurdle. Like I said, he did everything he needed to do all season long. Much like how we got into the playoffs, he has been our bubble boy from the start.
Yeah, he's been there all the way through the season, basically, and he's worked hard to get to where he is. So congratulations to Michael Wolford and Andy Hurdle for also advancing to the round of 12. But again, we say goodbye to 4 drivers in their championship hopes here tonight, beginning with the number 37 Team Huzzah Ford Mustang of Chad Hyder. Perhaps a little bit of a different story had he been able to race at Texas a couple of weeks ago. But, Hyder gave it a competitive effort here throughout the course of the season. And, we certainly look forward to seeing what he's got in the remaining 7.
And you know what? There's still time for him to put up a win, too. Although it won't progress him through the playoffs, it would be awesome to see Chad clinch that win as he's been winless for the length of 2 seasons here. One of our best drivers in our series. It'll be awesome to see if he can get that in the later rounds of the playoffs.
And ranking 15th here and getting eliminated is the number 13 True North Racing Toyota of Kevin Daigle out of Thunder Bay, Ontario. Roundabout where he finished last year as well, also getting eliminated in the round of 16 phase.
Yeah, and Kevin had a very, very great couple races there earlier on. Most notably in Charlotte, he came 3rd. And Kevin has had a wonderful season. Very, very much so has progressed since last year, and it's been awesome to see that progression in Kevin Daigle.
And another guy who's not progressing here would be the series founder. Dan Cudmore finishes 14th in this particular round after advancing to the round of 12 last year, just missing the round of 8, eliminated in the round of 16 this year in his Winston Racing Group Toyota.
That just goes to show the depth of field that we have this year in comparison to last. So much more competition to deal with now, and certainly gave some of these challengers a good run for their money.
And we saw it here tonight. We talked about the track potentially leading to some madness and chaos. Matthew Paytak caught up in it. He finishes 13th in this round. He hits it hardest tonight.
Yeah, and you know what? Matthew Paytak has been one of our strongest drivers as well in our series. Very, very close to winning in Canadian Tire against Mike Marini, right? So, commiserations to Matthew Paytak, just missing out there. But some more racing to go on. Don't get the hopes down here now, and just keep your head down and race on.
Yeah, Matty's been really strong over the course of this season, as you say. Just a little bit of bad luck hitting him at the worst possible time here tonight. And again, that's his title hopes dashed. But again, for the remaining 12, we move on to the round of 12 in our next trio of races here, beginning again with the Domino's Pizza 200 at Auto Club Speedway next Tuesday night.
Yeah, so Auto Club next week, not a track I'm familiar with, but this round in the playoffs with Auto Club, the Charlotte Roval, and Talladega are certain to put up some very, very, very interesting racing. And, as we saw last week in Road America, Charlotte is going to certainly throw up some awesome challenges.
And we're looking forward to all of them over the next few weeks, but for now, we're going to go ahead and sign off as we wrap up the round of 16. So, for the rest of the Canadian E-Motorsports Network team, series founder Dan Cudmore, our various race control helpers, color commentator Mark Cox, this is Jordy Carraher signing off. We hope you've enjoyed tonight's coverage of the Canes Camp 250. We hope to see you next week at Auto Club as we begin the round of 12.